Well, good evening, everyone. It is August 13th, Thursday the 13th, 2026, and we are the Violet Flame Triad of the molecular order on our third class studying the rays and the initiations channeled by Dual Cool through Alice A. Bailey. Last week we talked about um, the work that we all have to do. I like this sentence. The work you and I have to do is to take the knowledge which is ours and adjust its application to the world's needs so that recognition of the truth may be rapid and pertinent and immediate. In the heart of every man lies hid the flower of the intuition, and through the developing the art of communication, we can penetrate into this intuitive heart of our brother. All kinds of things that we went over last week that if you want to know more, you can have access to last week's Zoom. I sent it out to several hundred people, but somehow I erased all the groups that I was sending it out to. I had about 30 groups. I don't know. I guess if they want to know more, they can inquire. I sent it out to about two or 300 or more people. And I'm keeping a running list of those that respond in a positive, affirmative way. I have about 100 so far, so that's good. A lot of people are listening to these Zooms there, Glenn, Ed, Ken, Cindy. So you're becoming more and more famous every week. And we talked about the paralleling and originating happenings which involve the following groups: the emanating avatar, the Lords of Liberation, the Great Council of Shambhala, the Buddha and his Arhats, the hierarchy, of course, led by the Christ, and to the effect of all these groups and lives upon humanity and the inherent consequences as they work out in the subhuman kingdoms. So we're gonna learn this next class about the descending energies, how they penetrate all the way down from the solar logos and the galactic logos, and possibly even from the universal logos, in whom we live, move, and have our being, down into the mineral kingdom. That's about as low as they can go, into the minerals and the individual atoms. Okay, I'll just read a paragraph here and then we'll pass the torch. A study of the above in terms of forces and energy, and these are these groups that I just read to you about, will give some idea of the underlying synthesis of relationships and the unity of the whole. There is, therefore, a line of descending energy which has its origin outside our planetary life altogether. The inflow of this energy, its inevitable effect upon cyclic law, and its consequences as they work out upon the physical plane, has produced and is producing all the changes of which mankind is so terribly aware at this time. So, outside of our planetary life, into the solar life, the galactic life, what's bigger than a galaxy? Well, the universe. This swings into immediate conflict, the past and the future, and in this statement I have expressed the deepest esoteric truth which mankind is competent to grasp. It brings into a culminating struggle the Great White Lodge and the Black Lodge, and opens the door to great contending energies, which we can call spirit and matter, spirituality and materialism, or life and death. These words are, in the last analysis, as meaningless as the terms good and evil, which have significance only in the human consciousness and its inherent limitations. Okay, any comments about that paragraph?
Energy in life is not evil unless you make it evil.
Well, Shakespeare said that. He said, nothing is good or evil except thinking makes it so. It's true to a point. I mean, if you wouldn't kill somebody and didn't think it was evil, it would still be evil. I mean, there are exceptions to that rule, but a
Hmm.
lot of what people do, I think, is characterized as evil because they think it is. Drinking Coca-Cola. I don't know how evil is that. Maintaining a level of balance, like with alcohol. I don't drink any alcohol just because
Yeah,
it
there
doesn't.
was a list. There was a list that was circulating, and it was things that you needed to avoid if you wanted to be a good Christian. And it included things like skateboarding and rock music and Ozzy Osbourne and Reiki. And it just went on with all these things. You
Reiki.
know, Reiki's evil. Reiki is witchcraft, according to some viewpoints, right? And as it went through this list, there was like 20 things, and I said, done it, done it, done it, done it. Like 19 of the
Doing it,
20.
doing it, doing it.
Yeah, I've done them all, and I'm not evil. So,
Well, you're going to learn, I think, in the next paragraph or two, because I read ahead slightly,
mhm.
that everybody is going to experience everything. No, was it Proverbs? All things come alike to all. So everybody has experienced everything. So that's why you can't judge. You can't judge a person for being fat because you've been fat, or thin because you've been thin, or poor because you've been poor. Whatever you're judging, you have been there, and if
Yeah,
not, you will be there.
a friend of mine says, I've been rich and I've been poor, but rich is better.
Amen to that. Although don't get caught up too much in the riches of the world. But you do need enough, and that's what Buddha discovered in the middle way. He
Mm.
was born rich, and he said, no, I'm rich and nobody else has what I have. I want to go out and experience the other side of the coin. And he went out into the desert and sat under a tree and
Oh,
became
yeah,
a pauper.
froze
Yeah. And he said, "This is for the
in the middle
birds.
of a Buddha statement.
This is for the birds, man." So he says, the middle way, that's the way it's supposed to be. Uh,
I think so. Oh, there we go. You're back.
there you go. Says my
We
internet
lost
connection is unstable, so Glenn, you better read on, brother.
you. Absolutely. These descending energies, as they pass through any of the major levels of consciousness, which we call planes, produce reactions and responses dependent upon the state of the conditioning consciousness. And, strange as this may seem to you, and well nigh unintelligible, the effects upon the hierarchy are even more compelling and transmuting than they are upon humanity. I would add also that the point of lowest descent of the energies has now been reached, and the nature of the present opportunity is therefore changing. These energies have now passed, which we might call the turning point, and have reached their point of ascension with all that phrase implies. As they descend, they produce stimulation. As they ascend, they produce transmutation and abstraction. And the one effect is as unalterable as the other. It is upon this inevitability of the ascending energies and the effects which they will bring about that the entire hope of the future depends. Nothing can arrest their return or their progress through the planes and back again to their source. Upon this dual process of descent and ascension, the whole cyclic panorama of manifestation rests. And upon the inflow and activity of new and higher energies, the whole fact of the energy evolutionary process depends.
So they've reached their lowest point. What's that called? Anybody know?
The fulcrum?
No. The fulcrum is the center point. that you can rest
Right. We read that the balance is on. Yeah.
The nadir.
the nadir, right?
Yeah.
That's the nadir.
I'm visualizing a yo-yo up and down, up and
Well, it's
down.
kind of that. It is kind of a yo-yo. You know, you
Yeah.
ascend to the lowest point, and it says nothing can stop that. You're going to go down, and you're going to rise up. And then he says that the Dark Lords, the Dark Brothers, he says they're the brothers of greater distance. They're still your brothers, but they have ventured too far to the left, out into the distance. He says, I
Yes.
thought that was interesting. They're
They
not completely severed, although Brigham Young once made a statement that the Dark Brothers would have to be reduced down to their native element and start their evolution or their progression all over, which I thought was interesting. Kind of like pottery. Pottery, he said, you know, they're like bad pottery. They got to be crumbled down to their native element and start over. These are the sons of perdition, sons of hell. But even they are ultimately not completely destroyed. Interesting. All right.
during meditation, when I do meditation instruction, one of the things that I often coach is for people to connect to the earth, to connect to their ground energy, and to pull that energy up through them and then out into the sky. And then I get them to reverse it and to pull the energy in through the sky like a funnel into your head, down your spine, down your legs, out to the ground. So I consciously have people getting their energy going up and down and up and down. And that's very strengthening and healing to do that energy exercise.
Well, you know, you're going to close this meetings today, so maybe you can have us do the yo-yo thing.
Okay.
It's your turn. All
Well,
right. Thank you. Let's see.
the entire universe cycles. We're now in Manvantara, which
Yeah.
is the expansion of the universe. It comes to a point where the universe sleeps and it goes into pralaya,
Yeah.
continues forever.
Yeah. And if you want to come back as a master, you could create a Maya Valupa. There's another word for you. Okay, Sandy, read on, sister.
Will therefore be apparent to you that the descent of energy brings with it, under the cyclic law, certain new inspirations, certain new seeds of hope for the future, and certain active agents as well, who are and will be responsible for the task of preparation, of fertilization, and of all the coming New Age enterprise. These descending energies evoke also the obstructing forces, and I would here remind you that these obstructing evil forces, so called, are met with upon the highest spiritual levels, because they are in their turn evoked by the impelling impact of the coming avatar, whose note is heard ahead of him, and his energy spreads before him. This is a great mystery, and can only be understood, and then merely theoretically, if you bear in mind that all our planes, even the very highest, are the subplanes of the cosmic physical plane. When this fact is somewhat grasped, there comes a simplification of thought. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Um, so I've wondered. We're told in the Ageless Wisdom here that DK says that evil is somewhat inherent in manifestation. It's it's just automatic within manifestation.
It's woven
But
into the woof and warp of the fabric of matter. As spirit created itself into matter, there came with it inherent three basic things: evil, pain, and resistance, and you could add fear to that as well. And so you have to rise to the level of spirit to or at least to the level of the soul, to overcome these negative influences of matter, material world.
So we're along those lines. We're also told that the Dark Brothers cannot manifest higher than the mental plane.
Right.
So that's just for our planet, the Dark Brothers. But would that mean also, can you extrapolate that if you go through the cosmic astral and then the cosmic mental as we ascend in our consciousness, you know, eons and eons and manvantaras in the future, that the evil cannot, cosmic evil cannot ascend beyond the cosmic mental plane.
Correct. And wherever you find material worlds, you will find the impulse of evil. Although the Tibetan says there's no such thing as pure evil. It's simply the result of the manifestation of spirit into matter.
It's resistance.
That's another
Well,
thing. That's another thing woven into the woof and warp is resistance. So thank you.
I thought that your article, I've always thought that your article on Curtis, on evil, in your book, The Gathering of Light, is very good. You have a chapter on that, I think.
Yeah, the origin of evil.
Origin of Evil. Very, very good.
Well, thank you, Cindy. I recommend that, people that want to know why is there evil in the world? It's an abstract concept, evil, but there are those that do purely evil things in the material world, in the material realms. These are people we need to avoid. And there is such a thing as witchcraft, and this comes about when people deal in the material worlds. They worship matter over spirit. And the ascended masters, their energy is not in the material world, so they're a little bit it's out of their realm. Their attention is on the spiritual worlds, where the Dark Brothers cannot go. But the Dark Brothers rule in the material world because that's where their focus is.
Mhm. I
Uh,
will clarify, though, I know many uh, good, strong, spiritual witches.
do they have
It's
their own? They have a coven?
yeah, I know witches that have covens and do the celebrations, but their hearts are good. There are good witches. It's not necessarily an evil force. The misuse of it is evil, but the strength of the spirituality is available to all. How you use it is your choice.
You a
Some,
good witch
some
or a wicked witch?
exactly, like Glinda the Good Witch who would come and rescue Dorothy.
Yeah, overcoming resistance in matter, that's something that we focus on all the time. I hate resistance. If I stub my toe or if I find myself um, falling or even in the material worlds, I have to deal with resistance.
Mhm.
We do every day. Gravity resistance anyway. Just one of those things. But when you become a master, you've overcome those things: evil, fear, resistance, worry, doubt, guilt, all the negative emotions that come with the material world. Like Ed. Ed
Mhm.
probably never gets mad. You know why? Because he's single. Do you agree with that, Ed?
Well, there have been times when I've got my dander up, so to speak.
Well, I'm learning to control my dander, being married. Just have to pick a good partner that you don't go too far over the deep end with. One thing about my partner, we might have a squabble or a kerfuffle in the evening or in the afternoon, but the next morning she's completely let it go. She doesn't carry any of that with her like I do. Well, no, I don't carry much either. Okay, carry on. Read that next paragraph there, Cindy.
As a consequence of all this, great and fundamental readjustments are going on within the hierarchy itself and within that intervening area of the divine consciousness to which we give the name, as far as humanity is concerned, of the spiritual triad, an area covered by the higher mental planes, the Buddhic and the atmic levels of awareness and of divine activity. The downpouring avataric stimulation is enabling certain of the masters to take some of the major initiations and to do so far earlier than would otherwise have been possible. Thus, a great process of ascension and of spiritual attainment is underway, though as yet only its faint beginnings can be traced, owing to the intensity of the point of conflict. Hence, also many probationary disciples are finding their way into the rank of accepted disciples, and many disciples are taking initiation. To this fact of hierarchical upheaval, paralleling and intensifying the upheaval upon the physical plane, can be traced the process of preparation which I have instituted among some disciples, thus hastening the period and point of attainment, provided I receive due cooperation from Discipleship in the New Age, volumes 1 and 2.
Those are a couple of good books that we might want to study, even study as a side note. Well, there you have the spiritual triad, your atmic, your Buddhic, and your divine. Those are the three higher triplicities.
Now, I'll just bring something up. I went to Google the word atmic, the atmic levels, to find out what it is. And where it took me was to the atomic levels of awareness. A gradient model where consciousness builds up from fundamental building blocks.
Well, we know that the monad is your father in heaven, your higher aspect of your above your soul that feeds your soul is your monad.
Yeah.
That's
The reason why is because when we first met, right at our very first meeting, one of the things we talked about was the consciousness of atoms and the connection, and how forming a discussion group at a higher consciousness level raises everybody and draws more. That was one of the concepts behind what we're doing now. And I'm wondering if that atomic concept needs to be looked at a bit deeper here as well. That there is,
it's atmic, not atomic.
right, but the word atmic, Google can't find it.
Google hasn't read the Alice Bailey book.
Google
Okay,
doesn't know
so
about the
so it's not a typo. It is an
No,
actual.
the atomic
Okay.
would be down on the physical plane, the lower physical
Yes.
construct.
So
Although
what
we are human atoms, you're a human atom, and then you and your spouse become a human atom. So
okay.
1 + 1 = 1,
Yeah.
basically.
Well,
So what is that?
Atma is the basic word, and it comes from the Hindu, and you can look up Atma.
That's
Yeah.
the name for God, isn't it? Atma. Well, we can look that up in Treatise on Cosmic Fire. I'll bet it'll have some definitions of Atma.
Well, I think in the treatise on cosmic fire, you'll find all the charts also that gives you an idea of
Yeah,
this.
right. Well, Ed, read on.
Read on. As regards the hierarchy itself, speaking esoterically and technically, its members, many of them are being abstracted from the middle point of holiness and absorbed into the counsel of the Lord. In other words, they are passing onward into higher work and are becoming custodians of the energy of divine will, and not simply the custodians of the energies of love. They will work henceforth as power units and not just units of light. Their work becomes dynamic instead of being attractive and magnetic. It is concerned with the life aspect and not just with the soul or consciousness aspect. Their places are being taken under the law of ascension by their senior disciples, the initiates in their ashrams, and under the same great process, the place of these initiates who are thus being raised to more important work is being taken by disciples and probationaries. It is this truth misinterpreted and shockingly travertized, which lies behind the teachings and the so-called ascended masters put on by the leaders of the I Am movement, thus prostituting and bringing down about it almost into the realm of cheap comedy, one of the most notable happenings which has ever taken place upon our planet. And I'm very familiar with the I Am movement because when I was 16 and 17, I read the books and listened to Mrs. Ballard, who her husband wrote these books of the I Am movement. And I thought they were very interesting stories, and there was a lot of the same truth in it, but it was more or less fantasized and given a kind of a storybook kind of approach.
He calls it a cheap comedy.
But there is a lot of good in it. The teachings that were given had a lot of good. And I didn't find anything different than what's being taught here, except the fact that they tried to make stories out of it and make plays out of it, and they had a lot of stuff.
Well,
I,
I
I
like,
will,
go ahead,
pardon me.
Cindy.
I will say that when I lived in Mount Shasta, there was a center there for the I Am activity, and I just walked into it one day just to kind of have a look around and see what was going on there. And this very lovely older gentleman came and started talking to me, and we ended up talking for about, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours, a long time. And he he was such a beautiful, gentle soul. And I just felt that he was quite an advanced soul, actually. And I could, just sitting there inside the building with him, I could see his aura very clearly. I don't see auras very often, not like, and very rarely like that, but it was just huge. It was just almost filling up that room.
Wow.
And it was just, it was really something. So I think this is just a little bit harsh. I mean, I can understand maybe why the Tibetan would be very cautious about who's giving out the ageless wisdom teachings, but I do think they've done some good.
Well, they're good
Uh,
to begin with. You like Life and Teachings of the Masters of the Far East. Is a good book to start out with, but you're going to go beyond it. The Aquarian Gospel, you're going to go into that. That's really got some great wisdom and knowledge about the Aquarian Age and Jesus and the Christ and the difference between the two. In the paragraph you just read, he's differentiating between first and second ray energy. The first ray of divine will, purpose, and power, and the second ray is units of light and warmth and love. They have to balance each other. If you have too much first ray energy, it can be very disruptive and destructive. So it has to be balanced with the other rays, especially with love and wisdom. He's talking about that. Um, it's interesting, all these initiates and disciples that are moving up in the up and up into the different strata and the ashrams. I wonder who and where these people are. I don't seem to run it. Well, maybe that's you guys for all I know. But you wonder where this school of thought is taking place.
Well, you won't find them in New Plymouth or Fruitland.
No, not very far, not very many.
Well, let me just tell you my experience with this. First of all of these things that we're attracted to in our younger lives are the steps along the way. You know, it's like pieces of jigsaw puzzles. You may not see to make a picture till later on. But back in about 1970s, 74 or 73 or somewhere like that, I was working at the county surveyors, and I was working, and my title was I was head of research and public assistance, and the people came into the counter and they needed information about property boundaries in the county, and I would lead them to the information, get them copies of maps and stuff. But anyway, this guy comes in who was the head of title insurance and trust company, and I used to help him with research and so on, and he used to take me out to lunch, and I looked up on the visor in his car, and he had that picture you find in the I Am books right up there on his visor. And he he was a life student of the I Am teachings.
Huh.
And he also during the war he was working in somewhere around Singapore as an engineer, and the Japanese captured him, and he was one of these long march people that was a prisoner. And they said the only thing that kept him sane and alive was his I Am philosophy.
Well, I am that I am.
And also, he designed the I Am Temple in Long Beach, California. It's a beautiful building, the Golden Dome and so on. And you can't attend any of their meetings unless you have an ID card, and you have to have gone through their 6 weeks training course. So in 1974, I decided that I was going to see what this is all about. So I went every Saturday for about 6 weeks, and I got an ID card.
Huh. They let you in. Huh?
And so they let me go into their temple. But anyway, I realize what it is. It's a stepping stone. It's a point along the way, and I know that it's related to my history with Roger Bacon, Francis Bacon, Shakespeare, and all that. It's
Yeah.
all part of that seventh ray.
Well, seventh ray, ceremonial magic, social expansion, business expansion, network marketing, all seventh ray. Well, we've all had a colorful past that has introduced us to the workings of the masters and enlightened souls.
I see that I've been guided into many things, and many things of experience that I never would have thought.
Sometimes it's out of your control. It just happens.
Well,
Things.
in a way, but right now, by your thoughts and your desires, your self-talk, you're attracting things into your life.
Well, I've attracted all you guys. Thank you, Ed, for sharing all that. Yeah, that we're all stepping stones. Ken, read on.
There is, therefore, owing to the inflow of energy from extraplanetary sources, a general shifting of the focus of consciousness of embodied and disembodied lives at this time. This shift is one of the prime factors producing the present disruption. Students today are searching for the causes in human motives, in past history, and in karmic relationships. To these, they add the so-called factor of wickedness. All these factors, of course, exist, but are of a lesser origin and are inherent in the life of the three worlds. They are themselves set in motion by far deeper-seated factors latent in the relationship between spirit and matter and inherent in the dualism of the solar system, and not in its triplicity. This dualism, as far as our planet is concerned, is profoundly affected by the will purpose of the Lord of the world and by the intensity of his one-pointed thought. He has succeeded in achieving a point of tension preparatory to bringing about these stupendous changes in his life expression within his vehicle of manifestation, a planet. This point of invocation will be evocative of great happenings and will involve every aspect of his nature, including the dense physical. This, of necessity, involves also all that concerns the human family, for in him we live and move and have our being. Those three words or phrases express the triplicity of manifestation, for being connotes the spirit aspect, moving the soul, the consciousness aspect, and living signifies appearance upon the physical plane. Upon that outer plane, the basic synthesis of incarnated life is to be found. It will be apparent to you, therefore, that in this achievement of planetary tension, it is not life in the three worlds that is the sphere of this tension, but the realm of hierarchical activity. The shift resulting from this point of tension, the moving which is its consequence, is in the realm of soul experience and soul awareness. Secondary effect can be noted in the human consciousness by the awakening which has been going on among men, an awakening to the higher spiritual values, to the trends and ideologies which are everywhere appearing, and to the clear lines of demarcation which have emerged in the realm of human determinations and objectives. These are all results of great changes in the field of the higher consciousness and are conditioned by the soul of all things, lying largely in the realms of the anima mundi, of this great sum total, the human soul, and the spiritual soul are but aspects or expressions.
Boy, he says a lot there, doesn't he? The realm of the anima mundi. What's the anima mundi, Ken?
I forgot. I know, but I forgot. He's talking about the human soul?
The soul of the world.
Oh, okay.
Soul of the world and all the living things thereon are.
I think it's implied in that sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are all the results of great changes in the field of the higher consciousness and are conditioned by the soul of all things, lying largely in the realm of the anima mundi. So the soul of all things and the planet, is the soul of the planet and all things on it, are the anima mundi. It talks a lot about triplicities. One of my favorite triplicities is looking at the soul is the director. The monad is the observer, is the audience. He is the one that's stationary but observes everything. It sends down an impulse to the soul, which is the director. And then there's the actor. And like Ed says over and over, we're all actors on the stage. So on the physical personality stage, we are the actors. So we act out the impressions that we receive from the director as he receives them from the observer, which is the monad. So there's your personal triad of your monad and your soul and us, the personality. We're out in the world having all these wild and crazy experiences that the monad can't have. We are simply his instruments or his puppets or his shadow, also called a reflection.
I think you're right regarding anima mundi. And when you look at if you understand Latin or French, mundi is means a world.
Yeah,
Anima would be like the soul of the world.
yeah, it's what it is. Munda, the French word for world is mound, the to the moon.
Mundi.
Yeah,
But it also expands to include everything,
that's what it says.
every animal, every fish, every bird, every
Yeah.
leaf,
All living things
virtually
participate.
every cell on the planet has a vibrational energy, and together, and I think that's the point it's making. We are all part of that, but we are just part of that.
Yep. We're just another part of the anima mundi.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. It is these changes in the moving, shifting realities of the soul consciousness and spiritual awareness of the members of the hierarchy which are responsible for the new trends in the life of the spirit and the new methods of training disciples. In such an experiment, for instance, as externalizing the ashrams of the masters. It is this new approach. Remember, he says, I make all things new. So just because we're bouncing up and down, we're also doing the spiral. So we're operating on a higher turn of the spiral every time we go through an up and down motion. The planet goes through 7 different movements, as it moves through the solar system and beyond. So do we, I guess. So everything not only goes up and down, but expands um, to life conditions as a result of the inflow of new energies, which is producing the universal trend towards group awareness. And its highest result in the human family is the taking of the first steps towards group initiation. Such a thing as group initiation was never heard of prior to the present time. That's because our consciousness has expanded as this goes up and down like a yo-yo, except in connection with the higher initiations emanating from the Shambhala Center. Group initiation is based upon a uniform and united group will, consecrated toward the service of humanity and based upon loyalty, cooperation, and interdependence. In the past, the emphasis was upon the individual, his or her training and approach to situation or to initiation, and his solitary admittance to the temple of initiation. But this individual concentration will in the future give place to a group condition which will enable several disciples unitedly to move forward, unitedly to stand before the initiator, and unitedly and simultaneously to achieve the great realization which is the result and the reward of successful discipleship. There you have it. So in the expansion of the evolutionary arc, we are now entering into group consciousness, and that's new. But you see it a lot on the news and advertising. Team Mazda, join our team, be a part of our group. Um, all together now, we're all greater than we were. Pieces to a puzzle unite, you
We
know.
are the world.
We are the people. Right. So, see it. If you look around, you'll see signs and evidence of this expansion everywhere. People are becoming less I and more we. Okay. Well, I've got time for everybody to take another turn. Glenn, carry on.
Unmute myself first.
That would be preferable.
In the first thesis, which I presented to the public, I outlined the rules for applicants, bracket, initiation, human and solar, pages 192 to 208. Summarizing the past propositions and indicating the individual preparation and requirements. These will now apply to the probationary groups of disciples and not to accepted disciples. They must and will still remain the character and purificatory objectives of the dedicated individual, but are regarded as adequately grasped by humanity. They have been proclaimed by all the great world religions down the centuries and have been recognized as the main conditioning qualities of all disciples. These same rules or formulas of approach are the lower correspondences of higher rules to which groups of disciples are pledged to conform and which they must follow and obey together. The hierarchy into which they will enter when full acceptance and demonstration have been shown will be the same hierarchy characterized by the same soul awareness, animated by the same spiritual activity, functioning under the same laws, but conditioned by two progressive and evolutionary developments. One, a much closer contact, invocative and evocative with Shambhala, and therefore a fuller responsiveness to the will aspect of divinity. And two, an invocative attitude on the part of humanity based on fundamental decentralization of the selfless human consciousness and a rapidly awakening group consciousness.
Okay. I think we're going to come into the rules here. Cindy, take us into rule 1.
In reality, this means that the hierarchy will be more closely related to the Great Council of Shambhala and very much more closely related, interrelated with humanity, so that a dual fusion will be taking place. This will bring about the integrative process, which will be the quality of the new age and will inaugurate the Aquarian phase of planetary history. I would now like to bring into a close relation the earlier imparted rules for applicants and the new rules for disciples, embodying the new group activity and group discipleship, resulting in group initiation. These rules are 14 in number. Today, I will simply give you, first of all, the rule for the individual disciple, and then its higher corresponding rule for groups in preparation for group initiation, reminding you that such groups are ever composed of those who have taken the first initiation, and the name of these is Legion. They are to be found in every country. There are not, however, so many who are ready for the new era of group initiation. Rule
Now,
1.
just one thing. When you hear the term group initiation, think of molecular relationship.
Yeah.
How they're kind of synchronous.
They are. Rule 1 for applicants. Let the disciple search within the heart's deep cave. If there the fire burns bright, warming his brother, yet heating not himself, the hour has come for making application to stand before the door. And then for disciples and initiates. Within the fire of mind, focused within the head's clear light, let the group stand. The burning ground has done its work. The clear, cold light shines forth, and cold it is, and yet the heat evoked by the group love permits the warmth of energetic moving out. Behind the group, there stands the door. Before them opens out the way. Together, let the band of brothers onward move, out of the fire, into the cold, and toward a newer tension.
The burning ground has done its work. What do you think the burning ground is, Ed?
Life in form and all of its challenges.
Do you think that collectively as a group we stand on a burning ground, Glenn? Glenn, you're muted. There's no muting in
So I mute so you don't hear me coughing.
Oh, okay.
So it's a politeness thing.
Okay, you're forgiven.
I'm gonna the word burning, the burning bush and stuff like that. It kind of employs fire and pain and so on. But I look at it differently. I have continually studied and taught the concept of grounding to earth energy, to becoming part of that planet and using that energy for stabilization. So once we've reached a point of evolution where we've handled all that, the grounding has done its job. We're grounded. We can now fly.
Okay, that's a great way of looking at it.
Yeah, that's one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is you've gone through the fire. Like the guys who walk through hot coals. You've passed through the burning ground.
Okay, that's another good way of looking at it.
I mean, in life, you may have things that make you think that you really got it bad. Things are really awful, and that's the burning ground.
That just burns me up. Okay, here's another way of looking at it. Harmony through conflict. If you have a group of people that are just starting out and they have not learned the principles of synthesis, of working together and blending their soul energy, you're going to have some conflict between these people. And you're going to have, they're going to rub off on each other, rub off some of the rough edges. They're going to burn each other's negativity out until they can become fusible and usable. So then they reach a point of harmony. So, we go through, my God is a consuming fire. He burns out all the dross, like gold is refined in the fire of the burning ground. So together we have to go through this burning ground individually and collectively until there can be no more tension or negative tension between us. Any tension would be a positive tension of moving forward.
Right. Sometimes in groups, some of the animals want to be more equal than the others.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, we
And
read,
this
we read last week that that's not the way it is, Animal Farm Man.
in the speech that I gave you the link at the very beginning, I talk about the concepts of conflict and how it can be a very useful tool to increase our understanding of what we want.
Well, the thing is, when I was doing life coaching in LA, people would pay me And so then I could tell them the truth
Mhm.
about their weaknesses, their foibles, their patterns, programmings, negative aspects of themselves. If I just walked up to them and started pontificating and telling them, "Hey, man, you're going to hell because you're always late," what would they do? They just walk off and, But because they are dedicated to their own personal growth, they allow me to say things that they wouldn't
They've,
allow me.
they've invited you to bring chaos into their
They
lives.
invited me to bring truth into their lives, and chaos may have been the result of that. Uh,
Mhm.
when I did Nexus with Bayard Hora, we all gathered together in the Poconos, and there was no place to escape. And he put everybody in groups of squads of six. And you were in a squad, and for the next 6 days, you got to know everybody in your squad, and they got to know you, and they would tell you what they think, and they would read you per se, and it wasn't always pleasant or positive, but you had to sit there and take it, and you couldn't, you just had to listen, and it was very effective. Some people got very irate and wanted to run off and go home, but we'd lasso them and bring them back into the fold and show forth an increase of love so they wouldn't feel alienated. So there are a lot of principles in creating group fusion. I'll tell you one of the most advanced, whatever you want to call it, things he did. This was Bayard Hora. He did different stages. He did a thing called uh, it was a portal to initiation and intuition. And then he did one called Power. He had to pay like 5 grand to go down to the Florida Keys where Hemingway lived. And so he took us all down there. And it was more intense. Oh, the first one was intensive. It's an intensive, and you confront. And his motto was, "Do you see how people set up their lives so they get to not confront?" And so in the intensive, we just confronted everything that we saw in people. And he says, "Okay, now I think this was before Power." He said, "Okay, now I want everybody to confront their physical bodies. Take off your clothes." And he had a group of his lieutenants, I guess you'd call them, and they had been through this before, and they knew that people were most afraid to reveal their physicality, in the nude. But in the end, everybody got naked, and there was music, and we danced around, and we stopped taking each other so seriously, and after that, we could confront anything. Now, it's funny, I went with my girlfriend. She was the very last person to take off her clothes, just did not want to do it. I was one of the first ones to do it. I thought, well, if we're
You
going to do this, let's get her done. No big deal. And anyway, that was a training, that was a burning ground that I went through with this and a guy named Bayard Hora,
Mhm.
who was kind of a psychotherapist and psychoanalyst, and he just wanted to work with groups of people and take them through group initiation.
Well, that's the same thing that they did at the 6 day training in the
Est.
well, it's Werner Erhard's group, the 6 day training. One of the things that they did to confront your body, but they didn't have them naked. They had everybody come in a bathing suit,
Well,
and
that's
they'd have
close.
groups of 10. There were about 100 people there, and there'd be like groups of 10 that get up on the stage and have to stand there, and everyone else would walk in front of them and stare at them.
Yeah. Yeah, he did that. He studied Warner and Est, and he studied, but he had a different twist on a lot of the things. Okay, so these applicants, the rules for applicants and initiates require quite a bit of consideration and study. Ken, why don't you read the second and third one, and then we'll just kind of close it for the evening.
Okay, rule 2. For applicants, when application has been made in triple form, then let the disciple withdraw that application and forget it has been made. For disciples and initiates, the word has now gone forth from the great point of tension, accepted as a group. Withdraw not your application. You could not if you would, but add to it 3 great demands and forward move. Let there be no recollection, and yet let memory rule. Work from the point of all that is within the content of the group's united life. Rule 3, for applicants, triple the call must be, and long it takes to sound it forth. Let the disciple sound the call across the desert, over all the seas, and through the fires which separate him from the veiled and hidden door. For disciples and initiates, do the moving forward. The door is left behind. That is a happening of the past. Let the cry of invocation issue forth from the deep center of the group's clear, cold light. Let it evoke response from the bright center lying far ahead. When the demand and the response are lost in one great sound, move outward from the desert, leave the seas behind, and know that God is fire.
Yeah, remember I said my God is a consuming fire. It's going to consume all the negativity.
Well, I always felt inspired by going out into the desert.
Me too. I like to go out in the desert.
I had a business in Pahrump, Nevada, which I spent like 2 weeks out of the month driving out there. And it would take maybe a couple hours from Anaheim or wherever I lived to go east and then up toward Death Valley and over into Pahrump. And it was quite an experience. Sometimes on that road, you'd never see a car.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm pulled more into the desert than the sea, actually. The fire, because I'm a Leo. I'm not attracted much to water. My happiest day was when I sold my boat. That's interesting, Ed. We're both drawn to fire and the desert air.
What's been triggered for me here? We've had a couple of things that have mentioned, the sounding of a call and stuff like that, and it triggered the angel Gabriel for me. And Gabriel was the trumpet bearer who announced the coming of Jesus. And he also announced the coming of wisdom to Muhammad. So Gabriel began Christianity and he began Islam. He was the initiating source, the initiating sound that got those both going. So if we're at a point now in humanity where there's a new evolution, Gabriel could be the sound that guides us into that next level.
Well, speaking of sound, and let the cry of invocation issue forth from the deep center of the group's cold, clear light. Glenn, why don't you close this meeting with the sound of invocation?
It would be my pleasure.
Unless anyone has any other comments that they would like to make. Like Cindy, do you have anything in closing you'd like to add?
Uh, no, I'm just thinking about the burning ground, and I think at each stage of discipleship along the way, there's a burning ground to cross, and it's kind of like it's a purificatory thing. The burning ground, kind of burning up the dross that's still left in our lower bodies. And in esoteric astrology, it's symbolized by one of the signs that are strongly associated with the burning ground is Scorpio, because it's a sign of real testing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That a water sign would precipitate the burning ground.
Yeah, it's because it's when we reverse on the wheel, everybody eventually reverses and starts going the other direction. And that you're going through Scorpio into Libra. And Libra is, DK says, is often the sign that a person is born under when he makes the reversal. And then he has to go back through Scorpio because he's going the other direction. So it's a real testing time, that period in a disciple's life.
And that's standing on the fulcrum of balance that Glenn, I think, was talking about when he mentioned the word fulcrum, your nexus point between negative and positive, light and dark, spirit and matter. Right on. I think we do burn through a lot of the negativity each time we go through an initiation. You're right on, Cindy.
So let's begin the close by grounding ourselves, planting our feet squarely on the ground. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold. And exhale. And repeat that. And when you hold, pay attention to sending energy down to the ground. Breathe in. Hold. And exhale. Personally, I feel my feet are tingling right now, connected to that earth energy. I'm grounded, I'm centered. Breathe in. And balance yourself. And I'm going to create for you an image of a stage on the Ed Sullivan Show, and there's a bicycle, and there are 10 Chinese people, and they all begin climbing on top of each other. And next thing you know, there's this pyramid of people, and this bicycle is moving around the stage with all of these people balanced on it. If the bicycle stopped, they would all fall over. The balance requires motion. You must have motion in your life to be in balance. If there is no motion, you're dead. There's extremes, there's things to feel. You go both ways. You're happy, you're sad, and you're hot, and you're cold. And they're all part of enjoying life. And it's making sure that if you add it all up, you feel balanced. And that's all that really matters. I will read the great invocation. From the point of light within the mind of soul, within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center, where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center, which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. And so it is. Amen. Bless you all.
Namaste. Thank you, Glenn. I feel very grounded into spirit and matter. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Ed, for all your participation and contribution.
Okay, thank you.
You all a good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great week, everyone. Mwah.